Well, it's 9:30 and we'll get, or 8:30, I guess, we'll get started with this work session.
So, Reed came to me, with some information about an application, cannabis application that came about in Grant County. So we thought today we would take the opportunity to, not discuss the applicant themselves, but rather the application and the process, because this is the first one we've had. We just thought it would be a good refresher for all of us. And so, the document that you guys got, in the board packet is just, I'm not gonna read it verbatim, but just kind of go through the timeline and then read, we'll also be able to answer hopefully most of the questions, and if questions come up today that we don't have answers for, we can research those and get them. But we thought it'd be important to just kind of review. We have our cannabis public use, which does not ordinance, and that does not affect this application. We have our cannabis ordinance regarding retail only, which does not affect this application. And then we also have our shoreland ordinance that we use for cannabis. And again, this application falls outside of Lakeshore. So the ordinances that we do have in place, this application falls outside of those. The scenario or the application is, the applicant received a provisional license for a cultivation facility. And through the process, the applicant came to Environmental Services and requested a letter from them saying that there's no zoning requirements for their application. So after that happened, Reed did reach out to OCM and asked, how does the county get notified? And is it, through Excella, and at what point of the application do we get notified? And OCM indicated that they notify the local government with the zoning authority, which in this case is the county, for any cannabis business to verify that the proposed location follows all the zoning ordinances, as well as complies with fire and building codes. And so the notification does come through Excella. OCM does send an email out to the landowner or the applicant when they receive preliminary approval. In this case, the applicant in Grant County did receive that preliminary approval. Once they reach that preliminary approval stage, that's when they have to start working on the site registration with OCM. And OCM then sends that site information to the county through Excella. So we know we have an applicant in Grant County who their application is outside of all of the ordinances we currently have. But now the applicant needs to work on that site registration. OCM does encourage applicants to talk to their local government before submitting the site registration. And that is exactly what happened. The landowner came in and talked to Reed. So the landowner, the applicant received a pre-approval for a micro business that falls in Grant County. A micro business, as a refresher, is a business that can either grow, make, sell, buy cannabis to include plants, seeds, edibles, and hemp products. So in this situation or this scenario, the applicant has been approved for a 5,000 square foot plant canopy indoors. And in verbal communication, the applicant said they plan to focus on indoor cultivation at this time. So now that we know that the applicant is in the pre-approval stage, they have 18 months. So in this particular case, they have 18 months, and that started back August 28th, to go through that OCM process. And then unless that applicant wants to do retail, we won't be involved. If they decide they want to do retail, then the county and Horizon Public Health would get involved at that time. So at this time, the applicant's building and grow operation doesn't require anything from the county. It's outside of the shoreland management district where our ordinance applies. Again, if the applicant would want to sell any cannabis at this property to the public, then the county would get involved and we'd rely on all of the ordinances that we have. But currently, how this applicant has been pre-approved, it is all outside any of the setbacks that we have. Again, Horizon Public Health only gets involved when there becomes retail to the public. And one kind of side note to understand is, as a micro business, the applicant can sell to other retailers or handlers. They can do that outside of our ordinance as it currently stands. In the future, if the applicant would want any kind of mobile unit to go along with this, then we would have to work with public health on how to handle that. And then just again, a refresher is the application fee for a micro business is $500. And after a year to renew it, it's then $2,000. So that's all the information we have. I'll turn it over to Reed if you want to add anything. And then we just thought we can kind of have question and answers, and we can, again, if we don't have the answers, we'll take the questions down and research those answers.
So like Tina said, we have somebody who is outside of shoreline. And since we don't have planning zoning, there's no regulating what building they're gonna put up, what size, any of those things like it would be in shoreline. So I had somebody come to me about a year ago and say, hey, I'm looking at doing this, does anything apply? And I said, as far as the building, nope, nothing applies. And at that time, we didn't have the cannabis ordinance yet. And then he came about 6 months ago and said, okay, do you have a cannabis ordinance? I said, nope, we are working on it. And then he came last week and said, do you have one? I said, yes, we do. Here's a copy. He said, okay, does that apply to what I'm doing? And I said, as long as you're just growing, no, that's all handled through OCM. We are really kind of out of it. So right now where it stands is he has, I believe his building is completely framed and now up, but I don't think he's got all the inside stuff done. The last I had drove by. He's indicated that he wants to grow everything inside right now. And he has some later plans to maybe do some work outside with some water and stormwater and some other things that a lot of those other things he wants to do would require maybe some input from us with some wetland stuff there and some stuff with the state for all the stormwater and how he wants to recirculate water with that whole operation. But so for right now, he's basically gonna get a green light from us too. I gave him his letter that said, hey, you're outside of any county ordinances that apply here, because none of them do. You know, outside of all the setbacks, you need them entirely for, and that there's a caveat I put in the letter that says for a cultivation facility. He's not exempt if he were to say, okay, now I'm gonna sell out of my property to the public or have something somewhere to sell to the public. That's where it triggers all of our stuff. And that's the model ordinance we got from the state and all the other counties that pass as well is just that. It's just for retail business. So like Tina said, there's 18 months from August till he decides, here's where I'm gonna have my site for my cultivation facility, which he's basically got it. What he needs to do now is the state will come in and he'll say, okay, here's my plans, here's all my fire stuff, here's all my building code, here's all these things. Then the state will come and do an inspection and say, hey, A, B, C, and D need to be fixed before you can get your license, and then you'll have to fix those. Because generally, if the state comes and inspects, you don't make it through the first inspection without them finding some kind of something that's out of whack. So that's at least been the experience we've had, so. That's kind of where we're at. He's just kind of in limbo now, waiting to pick his side and. With his micro business license, he can pick, they're called endorsements basically, so he'll pick his main license as a micro business. Then he has to pick, okay, I wanna do cultivating, I wanna do retail, I wanna sell to suppliers, I wanna sell to people who make other things from what he grows. He has to select all of those. And the only one that we end up getting really involved with is when he sells to the public, that retail side. So. And he indicated, the reason Tina brought up that mobile piece is because he indicated that he didn't necessarily want people showing up to his house, his property where he lives to be buying this. So he was thinking of having some kind of mobile units that he could drive to somewheres and do it out of that. I don't, we have to look with OCM and Horizon how that works. I don't. That one, I don't have the obvious ideas how that will work. But right now, he's mainly gonna focus on getting growing to try and start recouping some of the money he's got in there, so.
We just thought because it's the first application, that it would be good to do a work session with the full board, kind of refresh all of our minds about our ordinances and then let you know what we know to date, and this might be evolving, but the important thing I think to note is that the applicant is following all the rules, the county is following all the rules, and because it's the first time, there might be a little grace, right? We might be learning a few things as we go, but I think to everything, all the boxes have been checked so far for this to happen.
So I got a question, Mr. Chair. You know, the feds made hemp illegal after a year. So the state would, or OCM would do the enforcement on the hemp products if that doesn't get changed throughout this coming year, kind of a thing, right? 26, I think they have to have it off the shelves, correct? Okay. So that is out of our hands completely. It's the state that's going to do that. Okay, and these mobile units, you know, I have mixed feelings on that because where are they gonna set up? So now you're gonna get the towns involved because they're not gonna set out on some township road somewhere, right? So you're gonna have the towns do some type of you know, where they get a license to be able to peddle that, whether,
did we mean, mobile, like
Not,
mobile
not,
tractors?
not like a temporary event kind of thing, like
Right.
a,
I'm
like a
thinking more
mobile,
mobile, like, okay, I've
like
got,
a retail business on wheels.
well,
Is what his
that's what-
master plan is what it was explained to me.
okay. I guess I was thinking more on the fact of I've got to be able to transport my product to
No.
a resale,
Nope,
individual.
not that, no, he's thinking a full like, kind of like a. food truck.
dispensary, mobile dispensary.
Yeah, a food truck for cannabis, basically.
Right.
And I don't know how OCM would look at that, I don't know if they would even allow that, or if there's something in their rules, I don't. That's not something anybody's ever brought up before.
Well, I tell you, if you get that vehicle weighs over 10,000 pounds, you get a lot of trouble. Cause now you got Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration would like to say something about that.
But that's not anything the applicant
No.
is wanting to do right now.
No,
Right
right.
now, the focus is the cultivation.
Good.
And it's nice to know that the process from OCM worked because they, talked to the applicant came and talked to us, we got the notification,
Well,
made a way.
we haven't got it, we won't get a notification from OCM until he selects his site.
Oh.
So, once we get that, then we'll have our 30-day window to say yay or nay on the zoning. That's where we're still kind of. I think he needed a zoning letter for some of his lenders or for some of the finance pieces. Mixed with to show OCM that where he's proposing is an allowable spot to start with, so that way OCM wouldn't go on. Just to figure out, oh, you're 200 feet from a school or something that would.
So Will, was that a comment or was it a question looking for an answer?
I will reach out to OCM and ask if they have regulations on mobile units
Yeah,
and Horizon Public Health. Just to kind of see, because that is something I don't really recall through the committee work that we talked about.
Yeah,
It's not
But-
gonna.
well, I thought it would fall under just like a brewery liquor license for but again, we're talking a mobile,
If it was temporary.
And then,
that's what it is. I mean, mobile is temporary. So if they're showing up at a,
so that's how we could treat it, and then we could say, well, we're going, it's temporary events like that. And blah, blah, blah.
But again, these guys, Mr. Chair, if I could talk to, if these guys are gonna do the enforcement on any kind of a dispensary, they gotta have locations where it's at, where, you know what I mean? I mean, you guys are, you're the point of the spear to make sure that, you know, that this isn't going to kids and wherever, you know what I mean? Out the back door, if you wanna call it that.
Drive up, if you can't decide on Thursday night, you're gonna go somewhere Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all of a sudden, and I expect you guys to mad scramble, and I assume there's some.
So what's,
No, yeah.
what if there was a mobile system that got put in place? What's to stop people from driving out to the, you know, the grow operation and buying there? If it was sitting in the, you know, on the end of his driveway,
It won't be at the end of this driveway, he's been in the back half of the property. From where it's at in a big, basically it looks like a steel shed.
We can put
Just
a sweet
blue and white.
corn stand.
Yeah,
there you go.
I don't know, I didn't have any color on when I was there, but you know, say that bit.
Yeah, it's blue and white.
He can sit on the road right away, right off the end of his driveway and do whatever he wants.
Well, I think we should focus on what's currently at hand since we're not there yet. It's just on the micro business side and the cultivation
You know, and
and
OCM
the
does have like
process.
some rules around his. Grow operation, that he has to have locks, he has to have this, he has to have all these things before he can be a fully open growing that. And then sell it to somebody in the state to make something. So there's some hoops he's gonna have to go through. So I don't see if he makes it through all the hoops, I don't know.
But I think we need to find out an answer if there's gonna be mobile dispensaries. And then we would need to change our ordinance to not allow them. Right. Because, okay, great, we licensed this one, but the one from Otter Tail County, we don't know anything about. And now they're just set up here one day.
I think OCM is kind of, you know, kind of keeping this as an exclusive for the tribes for now. That's kind of what I've read up on a little bit, that they're possibly mobile units that are gonna be coming off their reservations. So that could be a possibility. Well, once they allow that, then I don't know if we can stop it.
And again, today it was just preliminary FYI that this application has been started and it's going to, like Reed said, take 18 months. But we thought it would be important to just refresh everybody, because, you know, if you hear about it, to understand the ordinances we currently have and what they regulate. And so, again, there's nothing that says we can't revise ordinances in the future. But just so we understand that this application falls outside of all of our current ordinances to date. And that as Reed gets information, you know, he'll definitely share it, but I think it's just good for us as a whole group, everybody to just have a good understanding about what's going on and start writing down our questions and looking for answers, so we don't get caught, you know, having to make a decision, you know, on this spot about anything. We gotta make sure that we're methodical, we're following all the laws and the rules, and so far this applicant is. And the process is working because, you know, he came and talked to the county, and so all of that is very, very good. Best case scenario.
He's right now, it doesn't, all the ordinances don't apply, but say we change the ordinance some point in time between now and 18 months. As long as he hasn't submitted his location and he's got all that approval, it applies to him. But as soon as he's got it all approved through OCM and we've signed off on the zoning, then that stuff gets a little trickier whether he's grandfathered in or not. So there's some shoreline rules where, oh, you already had your existing building was there before the rule changed, so you're in or you're.
And one thing
Right.
that we need to keep in consideration as well is, so the ordinance that the county had currently adopted for the cannabis ordinance is, I went through the process to get it submitted to the state, make the addition to our record management system, ticket writer. So that ordinance now sits within our ability to issue a citation on that ordinance. Now, ordinance addition, subtraction, or editing, with that whole process does take some time. And so if we're gonna make changes to ordinances, you know, we have to get on that almost immediately, so, to be approved, because that is, you know, there are county attorneys involved in that, state judicial system, judge. It's all involved in those things, so it's a little bit of a process, so we just need to be mindful of that moving forward.
Mr. Chair, one more question I got, and, or actually, a little point to talk about. Micro businesses are just like a family setting. There's no employees tied to this thing, correct? Meso is more with employees. Am I correct on that?
Micro, it's I don't know if there's really, it's tied to basically your locations you can have, so they can have one retail business, they can't, and their grow operation, a couple grows. Versus I think meso means you can have up to 3 retail locations and probably ever grows out there. It's more tied to that versus not employees per se.
Right, but it's out of our world, that's an OCM.
Yeah, that's an OCM.
Okay.
I have something, Mr. Chair. Okay, Reed, so have you seen where OCM has all these guidelines? What are their guidelines for grow operation to?
That part I would.
What are they gonna come in there and say, hey, you gotta have this, you gotta have that? How come they don't have a list out there for us to look at?
That I haven't seen, and I suppose it's because it's under them, not us, I suppose, so I've never. Because it's never been like a county issue and something the county was gonna have to do, because there's nothing I could do about it. I haven't looked at here's what he needs to do that, was always, it's on the applicant to know what they need to have to meet OCM's rules. But we could look and see what those A, B, C, and D are.
It'd be nice to have that.
So is OCM then gonna notify you that the person or the applicant has met everything, or are they gonna notify us?
They notify me once he submits his site, and then once we approve it. And I don't know, I think, then once he says he's approved, then we get some kind of notification, yeah. I assume it'll come to Acela like their initial one, so I assume it would come to me, so I would send it to you to.
It'd be good to know that.
You can ask it.
I think a lot of people out there think this is a whiz, an easy deal. I don't believe it is.
Well, I think if you wanna see that checklist, just ask for an application packet. I just Googled it and you can get an application packet. And they're gonna tell you everything you need to do in that packet.
Okay.
Well, I'm guessing they'll check on him from time to time too.
Yeah, they're required to inspect once a year.
Well,
just like
yeah.
anything else.
And if I'm correct here, we have no control over how many of these are in the county. Everybody that applies gets to go through the process.
Could be 1,000.
And if they meet the all the regs and stuff, they'll get a license.
Right.
Do it.
It's an unlimited license deal through the state, and as long as you're outside of shoreline, we're kind of out. And inside of shoreline is where you can maybe link it with some conditional rules or some sort of commercial business stuff. We'd have to look at exactly where it is, what they're planning on doing, what all they would do. It's all case by case.
Mr. Chair, to the point of Dwight's question and Troy's comment, would it be a good idea for us to access, if it's through the application process, so we have that information in case we're asked?
Yep, we
If it's
can read,
available,
Yeah, we can download the application and
and then you have it as a resource in your office.
so always remember that there's like 13 or 14 license types, our ordinance covers one. So that's where it gets. Like our office is not the one-stop shop for OCM's cannabis laws, ours is one-stop shop for Grant County's ordinances. Basically, so that's where it gets, I have to be careful how we can help them like we do everybody else through all the things, but. As soon as it comes to filling anything out or doing the apps, that's when we kind of, our hands off, we say, okay, here's where you find that stuff.
Yeah.
I'll make that out.
but we could do some research
Yeah, that's.
and look at the application packets and try to develop our own list just to help us learn, I think.
Well, yeah, got any questions?
It's a good session.
Well, we'll work, I made a list here of things that will work on and then, we can share it and, we'll just kind of go through this process together.
You may hear from some of the other counterparts that OCM can be hard to get a hold of or struggle to talk to them. So far, that hasn't been an issue here. I've emailed them and they've got right back within the same day or the next. So far I haven't had issues, but knock on wood, and I'm sure never know, but.
Whether a state agency is hard to get a hold of or not depends upon your expectations. If you expect them to answer the phone when you call, that's probably not.
They don't answer phone calls.
Who at what state agency?
They're still targeting social equity, these applications, veterans and social equity. What's that?
That's the part that's.
Right?
What's that?
They'll answer you.
If I call?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of times I'll do it, like a group conversation with governor.
Is there any other
That's true.
questions for the cannabis application? Well, like we said, we'll work on this and it might be something that we come back just for informational and learning since it's the first time. But so far, the process seems to be, the communication has seemed to be well, again, between the applicant, OCM. So I think highlighting the positives and then we'll just keep learning as the process evolves. Thank you, Reed.
Action transport, just like they're on the ballers. I looked at that.
Thanks. Yeah. That's crazy, not just sitting in there. Yeah, we got to get that. Yeah. So, was there anything on the other line? The judges.
No, what I mean, like,
They didn't want
a year ago, or whatever.
And there's a lot of states that did that already. I think in fact, you know, the federal government was put it in the process until they get out. I said, now they're indirect. This thing is going almost or have you're gonna spend those for causation. Reschedule. It's gonna be a role of that. That you're really for that.
So if I can call and.
Pretty tight lip. Yeah. What do you want? I just don't.
I looked
Yeah.
at transporting. Basically just hiring armored car service.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, they're same thing with the cash. Until they get through, so the banks can actually, so these banks can be paid off. Business expense and things like that, and the banks get involved, things like that, the biggest share was cash. So these people, you're right, Troy, they're hiring armored cars for the cash, hauling it to places in.
That's not what, no, to transport it, like from the road.
Oh, yeah, yeah, you're talking
That's a-
product. I'm
That's
talking.
just a cargo van. The tribe uses a cargo van. This is a standard cargo van. They had some security guys on the truck, but all of them are told, hey, somebody's brought the truck, give them the keys, like, it's not worth your life.
No. No,
That's what the tribe told us when we were standing there. We were asking about it.
That's what we've always told people.
but you got, you pay the tax in cash.
Up there and act, yeah.
You Google it, you'll find that out. There's armored cars that are hauling cash to somewhere in Virginia.
As soon as you mentioned cannabis and what you're buying it for, the price doubles.
Yep.
We're on, it's the same, piece of machinery and equipment.
But these multi-state operators, you know, and they're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars, that's how they pay their tax. So that's don't do it, it's not just city banks get involved. It'll be a dead issue. Sure, you can, states' rights, and you can navigate in and out of these circuitous waters, but it ain't gonna be a big business, bro. There's no way.
Then it was frozen right to the bottom for good. In my yard, years, so I know it's not.
Yeah, I did it for 25 years.
Yeah, it was clean out.
And moving stuff into ground was coming.
I didn't charge the city either, I'd rather go. And, you gotta keep those curbs clean for the old people, does.
Yeah, well,
Everybody's been all kinds of, and then you don't stay on top of them, guys, you look at it overly, you're on top of it. Well, I think, there's interesting.
So Commissioner Ken, You think I'm tied up for the state down there? Is that why you're asking me back to
That's what the.
How you doing? Not bad yourself? Good, what do you think? Come to give us a report, huh?
Yeah.
Did you?
What did I say?
That he was tied pretty tight to walls.
No, I did, even you.
We got a long way here that they're talking about.
Thank you.
MC that
Yeah.
did.
I'll buy you a cookie.
Yeah.
How
about lunch?
Why?
I never.
You can buy me lunch.
Tobacco.
Is that what you want?
Always on, but, yeah.
9 o'clock, call meeting in order, stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, approval of the agenda. So,
Second.
Did anybody want to add? In the email yesterday, the Excel Energy document, as well as the letter from the city of Elba Lake. They were included with the warrants.
and we should,
That should be part of the agenda then.
Nope, they came in yesterday. The agenda was already sent out, so if you want to discuss them today, they would need to be additions to the agenda.
I'll withdraw my motion then.
Get to it. Okay, Mr. Chair, I'll amend the agenda that includes XL Energy, the transmission line project, and the City of Elba Lake, First Street Southwest and Second Avenue Southwest reconstruction project.
Okay, with those two additions to the agenda. We need a second. I'll second. Motion and second, any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Meeting minutes for Central.
Make a motion to approve them, Chair.
Second. Motion and second, any discussion on any of the minutes? If not, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Warrants.
Make a motion, we pay the bills.
Second. Motion and second to approve the warrants. Any more discussion? Not all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, MC IT report. Warrant.
Thank you. Or thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Board. My name is Richard Meehey. I'm a risk management consultant with MCIT, Minnesota Counties Intergovernmental Trust. Happy to be in Grant County this morning. You are the last board report of our membership. So we started when it was quite warm and had a beautiful frosty drive out this morning. So what we do this time of year is just try to give kind of a state of the state or the condition of the counties and let you know where things are at and let you see where we're at and ask any questions. If I don't know the answers to them, I'll bring them home and get back to you. But what I wanted to do is just take a moment and either refresh or introduce MCIT, what we are and maybe what we aren't. We provide coverage for 81 of the 87 counties in the state. We're up to about 500 members total with the various historical societies, fair societies, and soil water conservation districts. Once we hit 500, there will not be any confetti or celebrating. We don't have a growth motive. We don't have a profit motive. We're a joint powers entity. We exist as a risk pool simply to provide coverage for our membership. So we won't be sponsoring any hockey tournaments or paying commissions or anything like that. We are a risk pool. We take a contribution from the membership. We use that money as an investment and we pay claims. And if things go well at the end of the coverage term, we like to return a dividend if it's financially responsible to do so. So we've been operating since 1979. We've been happy to have Grant in the trust since 1985. So 40 years of membership are greatly appreciated. What we ask from our membership, specifically from the commissioners, is engagement. If you have projects or programs coming down the pike, we like to get engaged and let you know what things will look like. Let us wrap our heads around any coverage concerns and the like before. Writing that for us looking forward is always pretty enjoyable. And then obviously, if you have issues or losses, we want to be engaged with you through that process as well, so that we're very understanding on where you're at and where you need to be. So it's not my intention to read this brochure or literature verbatim, but I'm going to kind of highlight some things. I'm going to jump into the second page, what we're looking at as far as stats and graphs. And most of this is pretty generic to the pool. I'll get a little bit Grant County specific at times. I'll let you know clearly when we're doing that. So right now I'm looking at reinsurance costs. So there are not a ton of parallels you can draw from, say, your personal life to how we look at the coverage or insurance through MCIT or through a risk pool. This would be kind of one where you might draw some similarities. Those graphs are ticking up. We, meaning MCIT, we purchased reinsurance, which is just insurance for catastrophic levels. The cost for us to buy that coverage has gone up exponentially, as you might have seen in your own personal home audit. What we did was we raised that barrier, that retention rate. We're taking on more risk as a pool to try to keep those reinsurance costs down to the memberships, and those numbers are kind of drawn out there on those two graphs. Dropping down, another kind of harsh reality here, the total number that we are insuring as a pool has gone to $9.2 billion. A substantial gain from, if we look back from not too long ago, 2021 to 2022, we were jumping, a little under $500 million at a time. Now in a year's time, we jump about $1 billion. So that pretty gentle trend line is starting to look a little bit too much like a hockey stick. It's just kind of indicative of the world that we're living in now. It's very costly to build or rebuild, to staff, materials costs, labor costs, all that kind of get factored into why it's so expensive or why we're seeing such significant gains there. I'll talk about rates now. I don't know if you caught about a month and a half ago, we did announce that MCIT will not have a rate increase for 2026. Your contribution could be more, but that means the rate, that doesn't mean that it's zero. So if you have added squad cars or staff or things like that, your contribution might be higher, but our aggregate rate is remaining the same. And as you can see in that graph, we're just looking at some kind of fluctuation where those rates have come and gone every year up and down on the different lines, work comp and property liability as well. Do want to call out the dividend. We're happy to return there. Now, if this isn't as large as you maybe have seen in the past, what the dividend is really indicative of is claims and investment performance. So the investment market is just not quite as robust as maybe you have seen historically. So therefore the return is not maybe as big as what you've seen when it's a little bit richer of a market there. So not a punishment, just kind of a victim of circumstance there. Next, I want to talk a little bit about cyber. Now, this is a pretty frustrating and interesting peril that we now provide coverage for. Very simply put, in risk, safety, insurance, we operate on two pretty simple metrics: frequency and severity. How often and how bad. Typically, when things happen more often or more frequently, they tend to get worse. We are pleased to report here that from 23 to 24, the severity, meaning the cost, actually went down. So, from a coverage standpoint, when we have inclement weather on the way, we just kind of hope it doesn't hit our things, our vehicles, our buildings, that type of stuff. Very little we can do to kind of brace for impact there. In the cyber and data security world, there are things we can do through technology advancements, training, education, awareness, those types of things. So it's a peril that we do want to try to get involved with from a loss control and risk management standpoint, so that we can try to meaningfully drive those things down. Anytime we get one of those metrics to tip down, we like it, we'll celebrate it. We don't want to take credit for it, because if it goes up the next year, then we got to take some blame too. But what we'd really like to do is get that frequency number down. It's excellent that the severity went down, but what we want to do is get the number of instances or claims that we're running into down as well. So Again, if you listen to your IT folks and the IT groups, they will tell you what they want and need. And then, very simply put, you all have technology in front of you. We're incredibly reliant on email and the like, but you know, I don't know how many classes you took on email security and training and etiquette and all those types of things. So we're really catching up to the bad guys. We're also really kind of catching up to what's appropriate from a data practices and security standpoint as well. I'll kind of start wrapping up here. I do want to call out on the back page now, we'll talk about workers' compensation. So this is very specific to Grant County. As I mentioned earlier, the rate is the same. You are charged the same to insure your squad car as your neighbors are. The only time we have a different system for that is in workers' compensation. You are charged off of the experience that you have. It's called an experience mod. It's how the entire insuring world works. You get a number, a numerical score based on your performance. It's a very sophisticated formula. It's your batting average, it's your golf index, it's your slugging percentage, it's your report card. It's kind of all rolled into the mix, and it judges you, it grades you compared to apples. So if you have a there are occupations that are inherently more dangerous. Law enforcement, highway garage, a little bit more risky than a clerical or staff type person. Everybody is graded off of that, specific to their code. You want to get a 1.0. That's kind of level par. Anything above that, we have to charge more. Anything below that, we get to charge less. Very happy to report that you are under that level par, so we get to charge less for coverage in workers' compensation. And it's a very sticky number. It's a 3-year average, so one great year doesn't move the needle significantly. That's great. It hangs around. But a really bad year sticks with you too. So appreciate your positive score there. That's really good for the taxpayer. It means you got a healthy and happy workplace. That's good for your staff. It's good business to have a safe work environment. So kudos there. Again, as I wrap up, just some kind of numbers that are showing you where we're seeing claims and the dollar amount associated with them. My eye tends to go to the law enforcement liability, a significantly higher amount than most other perils. And that's not a grant, that's not an MCIT, that's a law enforcement issue across the board. 365, 24/7, very expensive equipment. It's just how it goes in that world. Right. Just as I wrap up here, the few things that we really like to highlight that we bring to the fold beyond traditional coverage that you would get from a private carrier. We're happy to help sponsor the employee assistance program. Those are for not only county employees, but elected officials as well. The obvious ones there are grief counseling, financial counseling, relationship counseling. Those are kind of the obvious ones. The other things we like to highlight in that program are things like leadership development. So if you have somebody new to a leadership position and they're having to have difficult conversations, maybe for the first time ever, perhaps they were peers with the people that they're now leading. It's not just for the tragedies, it's also for the growth and development as well. So something to keep in mind there. We get a report on engagement. Grant County is a wonderful participant in that, above what we hope makes meaningful investment. So I appreciate that. And then lastly, I wanted to call out Patrol, Peace Officers Accredited Online Training. That helps us, we co-sponsor that. That helps us allow or provide online training for our sheriff's offices. I'm not going to call it the low-hanging fruit, but it's the compliance-based training, the bloodborne pathogens, chemical awareness, that type of stuff. We can get that to them in a quick and easy format where they're at, so that they can get out and get on the roads and help the taxpayer and the communities where they are needed. All right, that's as fast as I can talk and a lot of shiny information. Is there anything you want me to drill into more, or any questions you have for me?
Mr. Chair, I got a question here. So you guys are tasked with labor and industry to do pressure vessel inspections? You guys are.
Yep, we offer that. Yep, our reinsurance carrier for that's Hartford Steam and Boiler, so they offer some inspection help there. So that was one area. I kind of glossed over it. It's on the second page. We've enhanced that coverage, so there are some more services that are available to you should you need those.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Highly regulated industry there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything? Thank you.
All right, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Ken Johnson?
Yes. So this probably originated, I got contacted from Mandy Westrom. I don't know if she's online or not today, but she did include a letter with packet. With some questions how the HRA and their levy request and how it's changed over the last few years. And I look back in 2024, I had received a letter from HRA as when they requested $200,000 and it quoted statute on what they can levy. And it's a percent of the tax capacity. So after visiting with Mandy, I did a little bit of research into that said statute, and there's somewhat more to it. And the deeper I dug, the more I knew that I needed some help, so I reached out to Justin Anderson. I believe he did some research, and I don't know, Justin, if you want to weigh in a little bit on what your finding was as far as maybe where the board needs to the part of the process type of deal.
So what the statute authorizes us, of course, to bond for, not bond, levy for the HRA. The amount levied shall be the amount approved by the governing body, but shall not exceed 0.0185% of estimated market value. The authority referring to the HRA shall each year formulate and file a budget in accordance with the budget procedure of the city, and city is interchangeably used with county in the same manner as required for executive departments of the city. Or if no budgets are required to be filed by August 1, the amount of the tax levy for the following year shall be based on that budget. So I did that. I had some conversations with Ken. I reached out to Kent Marshall, explained that this topic was going to be discussed when the agenda was set. I sent a copy of the agenda to Kent. And that's what I know.
So at that point, when Mandy had, I believe, had requested some data, and I believe Jim Standish supplied some of that information. And so the 2025 levy increase, there was listed 7 items. 4 of them were remodeling the HRA current office, furniture and miscellaneous expenses associated with the remodel of the new office, maintaining their new office, utilities, ground maintenance, and the new storage space of $100,000. So the increase from $100,000 to $200,000, and then he says that the HRA does not maintain a budget; they have a budget for each of their projects. Subsequently, on page 2, under the financial assets, he does state that the 2024 operating budget was $1.6 million. So I guess one could say at some level they have a budget. My point would be that for 2026, they again asked us to levy $200,000. And I feel like, and I think that's what Mandy is reiterating, is that the reason for the 25 increase, the majority of the items, the first 3 items are normal business issues, insurance, utilities, but the rest of the items appear to have been completed. And so one could say, why would we ask the taxpayer for another $200,000 without a budget. And you can see as part of your packet, how the levy's gone up. I did get a copy of the 2024 audit. And on page 22, under cash and investments, the HRA lists under unrestricted $1,355,000, which would be about 84% of their 2024 budget, if that 1 point. They have a lot of money. And absent of a budget, I do not feel this board, since the statute states that we can't levy to the unknown, that absent of a budget, that we should not ask our taxpayer for $200,000, because I don't think the numbers bear out. I can't explain why anyone from HR is not here today. But I would make a motion that absent of a budget, that we reduce that ask to $100,000, which was the 24 request, because it appears the reason for the 25 increase has been satisfied, and to continue it would not be fair to our taxpayers. And that would be my motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we get a second and we have some discussion, or? I'll second it, so then if there's any discussion.
Mr. Chair, I think it would be fair for the HRA board and its administration to be present during the board meeting for any kind of a direction that this board is headed. So that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm going to be a no vote because they're not in place here to be able to actually defend what they're up to here.
So, will we approve the final budget at our next meeting in December?
Well, we have to approve a final budget to have a levy, and that has to be done by December 27, 28th. There's a date that it's not our next meeting that it has to be done by. There's a date, and I can't tell you what that is today. But I mean, it's not 2 weeks from today, it's after that.
Before the end of the year, though.
Correct.
So, and I understand Bill's comment, the one thing I think is important for us to understand is our county attorney, Justin, has done the research. It states that we can't levy the taxpayer without a budget. Absent of a budget, irregardless of the numbers, it's the same numbers I would say if they were present. They have a lot of money for us to weigh in, and I have no problem having them. I think they should be present, and at the next meeting that we have this similar discussion. But absent of a budget, we can't levy anything. It would be zero.
So my question and concern here is, we don't have the county a process for how we appropriate, whether it's HRA, historical society, anyone. We should have a policy that by X day, you need to get us your levy request, your budget, all of the things that we need to do this, and we don't have that policy. We haven't been doing it. My next concern with that is, we don't follow our policies anyway. And yes, I'm talking about the HRA. We set a policy on how we appoint board members. First time it come up, this board completely and totally ignored it. So, do we have a policy how we're gonna apply it fairly across everybody? And if we do, are we gonna follow that? Or are we just gonna completely and totally ignore our own policies? I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong. I'm saying the board needs to look at ourselves and say, okay, we need to have a policy on how we're gonna deal with this. We need to apply it fairly across all of them.
I agree 100%. My point to that is absent of a policy. If you're gonna quote statute on your ability to levy, you also then gotta quote the rest of the statute. You can't take one piece of it and apply and not look at the whole thing, and that's why we have a county attorney. So absent of the policy, I think we still gotta use the statute, otherwise we won't really have any control in this, anywhere in government. The statute still stands. I think we should have a policy, but the statute's gotta apply to this year on whether we tax our taxpayers $200,000, which based on the numbers, unless they prove differently, is way too much. And your financial statement says it.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to table this until the December 16th. I think we've got more issues than we're gonna solve today.
I'll second that.
And Mr. Chair, if I could add in, invite them to the meeting with the budget. As many board members as possibly can show up.
Okay, anything else?
I would like to mention, they were fully aware of, would that be accurate, Justin?
I communicated with Kent, we need a budget. This is gonna be discussed today at 9:15. I didn't specifically invite them. But I was not trying to hide a ball or.
No.
Just a point of clarification, there are two motions on the floor.
Yeah, we do have another motion on the floor.
Better deal with the first one.
Why not, can't I make a motion to table that motion? That.
Yeah.
That's what my intent was to table the motion in the second until the December 16th meeting.
Yeah, all right. So we have a motion in the second to table this decision on HRA till the next meeting. Any more discussion?
I got one thing, Mr. Chair. So, but within that motion, then, the HRD gets notified, and they get a chance to get their people here, right?
Yeah. Okay, Bill put that in the motion.
Yep.
Discussion. Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Ashley?
Is someone to reach out? Is someone else to reach out?
Mr. Chair, our county attorney got a question. I would say our coordinator probably should. Or that's what they would do.
Could Tina draft a letter to send to the administration and all the board members and have Doyle sign it?
Do that.
Okay. So, I guess I would point of clarification, since we have had contact with their council, should Kent be included in that, or is this?
Well,
going in?
I'll follow up with Kent,
Okay.
just as a matter of professional things.
Thank you, Justin.
Okay, Ashley?
All right, so the first thing I have is restructuring in our assessor's office. So we received a retirement from our deputy assessor, and this will be at the end of the year. And so the strategic planning committee met to discuss the restructuring options. Carl presented a few options we discussed. And what we went with the options was reclassifying the deputy assessor. And Carl can talk a little bit more about what the reclassification entails, but adding some more duties than what it originally had. And then the other position would be to create an assessment technician position. And so that would be more of the clerical in-office data entry type of position. You want to add anything to that?
So essentially what I did is I took out the clerical functions out of the deputy assessor, and moved in on the assessment technician. And I moved more of what a typical deputy assessor would be is I brought forward some of the appraiser part and put it into the deputy as well. And then the deputy assessor will also be in charge of some of the other Department of Revenue, guidance, giving. And then there'll also be like overseeing some of the other programs within the office. So it's kind of just realigning and making the deputy assessor more in line of where other counties, what their deputy assessors kind of look like. And again, but the assessment technician will be, again, the more of the clerical side. They won't be expected to go out and view properties. So they're not gonna be an appraiser. So there's gonna be a couple of different ones.
And this isn't an additional employee to the office, so what we would do is we'd open it up, if there's interest internal, then, you know, we would move the position or move.
It's a new
The assessment,
position, there's still gonna be 4 individuals. We're not adding.
we're not adding, no, we're not adding. So the assessment technician is a new developed, the deputy assessor was just reclassified. The deputy assessor came back the same at a grade 9, so there's no change to the deputy assessor. The assessment technician came in 1 grade below the appraiser at a grade 6. So I'd be looking to get the reclassifications approved and to.
I will make a motion to approve the 2 new classifications. Well, you have to hire.
I'll second that with a question, Mr. Chair. So this technician is that what other counties are doing out here, just to kind of retool staff and?
We're just, again, with the assessment technician, we're taking out the appraisal side. So the things that the assessment technician won't be able to do is they won't be able to classify or value properties. They'll be able to still interpret like applications and those types of things. But that's another license in order to get them to be able to classify and value properties. So we're trying to make this kind of a stepping stone position so that if there was ever an appraiser position open, eventually they could step into that role because they've already got the laws and the procedures down. Yeah.
And how long is it? Go
ahead, I'll let you talk.
Well, how long have we been has it been since we went to being a true county?
I believe we switched over in 2018.
So it's been 6 years, we've just been running by adding, we didn't really retool how the office ran.
Correct.
This allows for cross training too, for, you know, the deputy assessor to learn more from Carl. Carl were to be out, you know, this person could step up into that role. Which we don't have right now.
Yeah,
Well, I'm good.
and we have a motion and get a second,
I second it.
I got
Yeah.
the second. Who was the first motion?
sure, that's right. Any more discussion? Not all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The next thing I have is the Minnesota paid leave that will be starting January 1st. This is the official policy that I have in your packet. The other one is the Family and Medical Leave Act I just updated, so. Starting January 1, all employees will be eligible for Minnesota paid leave to take a max of 20 weeks off for 12 weeks for medical. And then, or vice versa for family, but up to a max of 20 weeks. I sent out the official poster and the acknowledgement yesterday for signatures. And then we'll start, you know, per the acknowledgement form, I did, you know, state that we are in negotiations, so anything that may change and be adjusted, but right now, the employees part would be 0.395, and we would split that 50, or we would, that's the 50-50 split, so we're 0.78, with MetLife. And so I have the portal ready to go if anybody wants to apply. The policy states, you know, notification, how you notify, how you submit, your application and things like that. So it's a general policy going over for what you're eligible for, what it covers. Minnesota paid leave will run concurrent, with, FMLA. And so I state that in the FMLA policy as well. And then some updates I have to the FMLA policy is that it will run concurrent, with Minnesota paid leave. And then that the offset I have in red, I think in your packet, That if you're on work comp, you know, there's changes obviously with that. And they extend, also parenting leave will run concurrent with this as well. So those are the few changes I did to the FMLA, and then the official, Minnesota paid leave is what I would be looking to approve.
Would those be two separate motions?
Yes, two separate policies. I mean, I guess we could group them together. Okay, we're gonna do two separate policies.
Okay, first we'll do the paid family medical leave. Motion to approve that.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second. Motion second, any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. FMLA policy update. The motion to approve that.
So,
I'll second it with, I mean, any of this language change, it can be changing in any of this protocol. You know, with the state change it, then we can kind of follow suit if there's any change in this,
I'd come back to change it.
any kind of language change.
Yeah.
Okay,
It seems like it's changing now.
because it looks like they've covered it in statute now, if that statute is correct. Or if they're gonna change it down there, then we would have to change it.
We'd have to change it then.
Yeah, okay.
So the 0.78, that's like the state is 0.88, right? So we got a little less because
Yes.
working with MetLife.
Yep, and with the state, we are on, with MetLife, we're in a calendar year. With the state, it's a fiscal year, so they're in July. And so we weren't guaranteed 0.88 by July. So we could have gotten 6 months of that rate and it could have went up. So, but right now it is 0.88.
Any more discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, the next thing I have is, our auditor requested to meet with the personnel committee to request, cafeteria for, living coverage, the $850 that is received would be part of his wages, and so would be ERA, eligible. And so in discussion with personnel committee, we stated that the expenses need to be passed and so for the county. And so he did some figuring, and I think that was included in the packet, what he figured at $850 and what he figured at $800. And what the deductions would be, and it came out to $6.17 a month. And that would be opened up to anybody that waives insurance.
well, the 617 is if you drop it down to 800.
800, yes.
So we're actually saving 600 and spending 7404. I mean, so the savings are over $500 for the county.
Mhm.
Because the individual is willing to give up that $50 to get it on, and this would be, anyone who's eligible would then be allowed to do this. So this isn't just one individual, so anybody that takes cash in lieu would be able to do this.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Is it for the 800, correct?
I can,
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, the next thing I have is, received a official retirement letter from Sheriff Holmes. And his official retirement date is February 27th, 2026. So I thought I would just talk a little bit about his, time here and movement. So we have 32 years and 3 months of service as of today. He was hired on August 26th, 1993. And May 4th, 2009, he was promoted to sergeant. And on 1/1/2017, he was promoted to chief deputy, and 1/1/23, he was promoted to sheriff. And will be retiring February 27th, 2026. So presenting the letter for approval of that for that retirement. to thank him for his 32 years and 3 months of service.
I'd like to say something, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Okay, just that, this man truly, had a serving heart. And he worked, tirelessly to protect the citizens of Grant County, to investigate their crimes and protect their property. He took things to heart. He didn't go home at night and, say that, I'm just gonna leave that on my desk. He took a well, like good peace officers do. They don't want anybody left out in the cold, they don't want anybody to get hurt. They don't want anybody to be taken advantage of or hurt in any way. And, he did that. He was, hardworking deputy, county got their money's worth. And, yeah, so that's what I want to say about him. He's a good man.
So I'm gonna get a motion to accept the retirement.
I'll make that motion. I hired him, I'll make it, that motion, being the former sheriff, I'll make the motion to accept it, really.
And I will second it.
A motion and a second, any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
All right, the next thing I have is our holiday schedule. So same holidays, nothing has changed, just the dates. Maybe some of the dates, but it's the same schedule, just reflecting 2026.
The day after the Super Bowl on that list.
I haven't added it yet.
Well, the one I was a little more concerned about is I don't see Bill's birthday.
I see mine.
I will make a motion to approve the holiday list.
Second?
Motion and a second, any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, the very last thing I have is years of service. So we currently have a recognition program for employees that hit milestones, years of service. They're able to pick a item of clothing or an item from a specific store to reflect their years of service. So I am here just to run through the list of those that met for milestones. We recognize them and their years of service and dedication to Grant County. So 5 years, we have Vicki Manch, she's in our assessor's office. We have 10 years, we have Dan Webb, he's in our highway department, Matt Comerford in our assessor's office. 15 years, we have Jamie Cruz in our treasurer's office, Tina McGrath in our sheriff's office. 20 years, we have Justin Anderson in the attorney's office. And 25 years, we have Tina Riley in the court's office. So just want to thank them for their years of service. That was just an FYI. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Minnesota Nuclear Energy Resolution.
In your packet, was the draft resolution. And I used the template that was provided. And per the board consensus from the last meeting, the resolution, as you read it, is supporting the goal of urging the repeal of Minnesota's moratorium on nuclear energy production. And as directed, I brought it forth to this meeting to be approved.
I will make that motion for the resolution 2025-1202-1. Adopt, go ahead.
Okay, we got a motion and a second, any more discussion on this topic?
Who was the second from?
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
There's one thing I'd like to touch on here a little bit is I did some legwork and did some research on joining the alliance. And does not cost any of the counties any money. All of this is just, it's just basically we let, support to make sure that the alliance is got the following throughout the state as a whole. And I know it wasn't popular last board meeting, but I'm gonna bring it up again. And I will make that motion to join the Nuclear Alliance.
Hey, we have a motion, we get a second? Will we get a second?
Did you give one?
No,
I'll second it. Hey, we have a motion, second, any more discussion?
So how do we dictate what their priorities are? How are we informed? I'm not in favor of putting Grant County's name in there so that they can say, oh, yes, well, when they change priorities, now all of a sudden, well, Grant County's a member of this alliance. And they do approve of what we're trying, even though we maybe don't know anything about it. We have no representation on their board.
well, we're just joining an alliance. We're not actually sitting as a board member on that alliance.
Right,
And
you
the city-
become a member and now all of a sudden they can use your name as being a member.
Sure. Well, why not? I mean, you're talking clear, the whole southern part of the state is. I talked to Gene Metz, he's a county commissioner out of Nobles County, and he's on this power board that you're talking about. And it's just the discussion and moving forward to make sure that the state is notified as a whole that there is alliance. And I would have to believe that your board that you're on with what do you want to call it? Minnesota Rural Counties, MRCC, that's gonna come in front of you guys as well, and I would guess they're gonna want some type of a position there out of MRC. So that's, I would guess the annual conference, they're gonna start, lighting fires and trying to figure out just who wants to be part of this thing, but this is a critical direction, and the City of Lake and the Power Commission here would entertain us along with MMUA and Great River Energy and WAPA, which is Western Parallel Associations, to join this alliance. So, Mr. Chair, I would entertain that you guys think about this a little bit. There's no cost to the counties. The big power companies are gonna do all the lobbying for it. All they want is just Grant County as a supporting LGU. We're seeing things coming through the county here now where you're gonna see paperwork coming through where you got XL Energy and you got, I would guess CapEx 2020, that's gonna be part of this. And they're gonna try to generate, some of this power. And it isn't gonna be enough to be able to feed the systems along with the AI systems in the region. So this is a critical thing. So this is a two-piece direction that the state, county commissioners, and everybody's on board with it, right along with the PUC. So, and I think Grant County would be served well if we would entertain joining the alliance. That's what I got to say.
So, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I kind of agreed with Troy last meeting when he stated about the goals, and I guess I'm questioning. If we join the alliance, obviously we'll have an opportunity potentially in the future, but I'm just wondering if this doesn't border on a stay in your lane. Do we really need to make that decision, especially now? Whereas we've stated we support it in the goals, but I'm not too sure without representation and some additional information that I think I agree with Troy Johnson's concept in that respect.
Any more discussion? Okay, we're all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. The motion fails. Environmental Services, Reed?
So fellas, a month ago, 2 months ago, I came and said, hey, they're gonna put that solid waste management plan out for public comment. There was no public comments, no agency comments. Nothing received, so now I'm back and says, okay, the PCA has reviewed it, we reviewed it, the public reviewed it. Now what we need is the county to approve it and approve their resolution saying that, yep, this is our 10-year plan moving forward. And then if you guys do that, then MPCA will issue a document that they call a finding of fact that says, hey, here's what this 10-year plan says. And then we would be done and safe for another 10 years till we gotta do it again. By statute, it's the rinse and repeat every 10, so. What,
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025-1202-2.
We got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Emergency management.
Morning. Morning. Brought you a little blurb here. So most of you are aware that our code red alerting system experienced some issues in the last month or so. Essentially, if you look on your sheet there, IPAWS is the nationwide alerting system that you can send out the AMBLE alerts come across. All the automatically push to cell phone stuff that you get on your phone comes from the IPAWS system. You're required to have a third-party vendor in order to access that system, and then you get a certificate that allows you to use your, in our case, we use Code Red, and we were able to access IPAWS through Code Red. So when their issue happened, and again, I don't know the depth of their security breach or whatever. IPAWS in a attempt to be as secure as possible, restricted those certificates that went to the Code Red system. So anybody that was on the Code Red system no longer had a certificate to be able to access the IPAWS alert system, if that makes sense. So working with the other counties that we were in a cog with for the Code Red, we started to search a new third-party vendor to be able to issue those alerts. We've gone through a couple of different demonstrations. The group chose this Regroup is what it's called. Basically, Regroup is the same as Code Red. They just started, their name is Regroup. So what you see there is we were paying $51.83.27 a year for Code Red. The Regroup cost is $51.40 for a 3-year contract. So basically, we'll be paying less for 3 years than we paid for 1 year through Code Red. What we gain with that is now we'll have a credible source that we can get our certificates back to be able to make. So essentially, currently on Code Red, if you signed up for Code Red, I could send you a message. But if we had something that we needed to get every cell phone in this region, we don't have that ability because that comes through the iPod system. So Regroup will give us that. We'll be able to get those certificates back and be able to make those messages go out. But in addition to that, they also have the ability to send to desktops as well. So each county that is involved with this conglomeration, there's 5, will have the ability to send messages to desktops as well as cell phones and landlines and all those things as well. So we kind of gain a little bit of extra ability that we didn't have with Code Red, and a significant savings over the course of, we'll pay less for 3 years than we paid for 1 year through Code Red. So just kind of trying to give you an update for that. This week, we're working to get our information, our 911 data, so that those alerts that go out to every 911 address, those things will be imported into the system, and we'll be able to set up our basically change our little button on our website that goes from code red to a regroup and people can start signing up. The goal is by the end of the week to have that available for everybody to start signing up again. They are working pretty hard to get our group back up and running. And so, in the interim, our option was to call down to the state, duty officer and have them send a message should we have needed to do something in that interim. Luckily, we have not needed that ability, but, that was our backup plan at this point. And now, as we move forward, hopefully by the end of the week, we'll be up and back available to do those things on our own. So, it'll give us the ability to send out countywide messages for our county employees. We'll be able to send out to anybody, obviously, that signs up for the notifications through that. But we'll also be back to that ability to just pick a geographical location on the map and hit every cell phone in that region if we need that. So, just a quick update. Hopefully by the end of the week, that'll all be functioning.
With the desktop, that an email?
It comes as an alert, similar to what our little green button, when you push the little green button, it pops up on your screen that says so-and-so at this desk location. And it'll be like a ribbon of, what do you wanna call it?
Just a
Banner.
message box.
Yeah, so, it'll just pop up on your screen and give you that alert. So we'll be able to send that for, if we're gonna, if they decide to close the roads or whatever, we'll be able to send that to everybody's desktop as well as, all their phone notification as well, so.
Another question, Mr. Chair, apologize, the Wendell, the work you did, with,
A weather radar.
what's that called?
It's an expand weather radar.
Yeah,
Mhm.
is that available? Are we utilizing it as a part of this, or where's that at?
So, it's,
That's separate
yeah,
than the notification system. The bill that was written to get 5 more radars up and access to the data was cut during the session. So our group is, we've applied for a grant with the Department of Ag, because they have their own meteorologists on staff there, and they have the emerging issues grant funds. And so we made application there, and Canby, Ojai County is sponsoring that grant application. We should find out soon if we are able to go and be interviewed for potentially receiving that grant. We're feeling good about it. And in the event that we get awarded that, we'll get the additional radars up in Minnesota. And then the data would be available to local units of government. Right now, our radar is functioning and working. In our regional pilot, there are, I think, 6 or 7 counties that are able to look at the data like we are. But we're still working on it very hard to make it happen. But this would be connected to any kind of notification system in the event the National Weather Service uses that data from the Wendell radar to issue a weather warning. And then we could use our notification system to get that out to the public.
So since we were a pilot and we do have the data, can that be disseminated to people in our county?
Not the public. Nope, it's just to our responders, fire, EMS, law enforcement.
It can then you use it?
Mhm.
So Grant County, EMS or fire, sheriff, and you can use the data, you just can't disseminate it.
Correct.
right. Yeah. And they are actually gonna be here this week to weatherize that. There was an issue last year with extreme cold temperature. They had some functionality issue with that radar. And so they're working on that process as well. So actually this week, they're gonna be here to basically winterize that tower. So somebody gets to climb up on that water tower today and hang out with
Better
a.
today than tonight.
So,
Yeah, the radar in Wendell is the first one that the company has in this cold climate.
So I got a question, Mr. Chair. So it looks like everybody's on board with this and we're moving off. I mean, you're talking Swift, Hope, Stevens, everybody in the area is tying.
So we were in a cog previously with Pope Stevens Grant was all together.
Yeah.
Travers is now, they have moved to this and with that conglomeration, there's about a $5,000 savings for having all 5 counties go together. So we'll be on our, previously we had a 3-county cog, and for the most part, prior to this last year, Stevens County kind of managed that cog, right, Tina? Just so I make sure I'm clear on that, but we were in the process of splitting that apart, so each county operated their own piece of that puzzle. Well, this will allow us not only to split out, and each county will have we'll have our own account for Grant County, but we will also be able to work with them. And for instance, I may be an administrator for Stevens County and Polk County, and their emergency managers may be an administrator for our county. So if something comes up and we need to send a message and we have no ability here, we can call to one of those counties and they can send our message for us. So we'll have that redundancy in this process as well. And it'll be the same with Travers and the same with Swift as well. So each county will be able to designate administrators for our county, and we'll be able to work back and forth, similar to what the COG did before. It'll just be a little bit different process.
So, you said you had the ability to send a message to all cell phones. Is that the all cell phones of the people that have went online and signed up, or do you know all cell phones?
So there's 2 different processes. If we go strictly through the regroup program, we can send to anybody who's signed up for that resource, okay? If we go in regroup, there's the ability to go into the iPod system, which requires a certificate and all that stuff. Then we have the ability to hit towers and hit geographical areas. You can set time limits. So for instance, if there's an accident by Ashby and we want to send it to everybody that's traveling through that area on the interstate, we can make a circle or a polygon or whatever shape you want to make around that area that you want to cover. And you can set a time. So for the next hour, we want every cell phone that comes into that area to get this message. And that will hit everybody driving down the interstate and they'll get alerted for that accident. So we could have done that. I don't know, they probably did it.
And one caveat to that.
Yeah.
So the message in iPods goes to the cell towers,
Right.
and then any phone or device that's affiliated to that tower will get a message for that hour. But end user does have responsibility, because in your phones or your devices, you have a settings where you have to make sure it's on to receive those messages. Yeah, it's
Go to
kind
the
of,
alerts down, you gotta scroll all the way to the bottom and then there's a government alerts place where you can get weather alerts, you can get Amber alerts, you can turn those things on or turn them off, obviously. So if those are off for you, you won't get those, but.
But the app is still on everybody's phone, correct? You just gotta, once it surfaces there, you just gotta, whatever.
You gotta
start the
allow the
process.
alerts, right? Yeah,
Okay.
so.
it gets very confusing, it's information overload. But yes, regroup will be a self-registered. It will be
Yeah.
just like Code Red was. People will go and they'll log in and they'll put the information in that they want. And those messages will come directly from Grant County
Yep.
Sheriff's Office or Emergency Management.
Yep.
iPods is another resource that utilizes cell towers, so it can hit the geographical area for anybody in that area who has a device affiliated to the tower. And the caveat is they have to, in their settings on their device, be willing to accept that alert.
It's a heck of a deal, iPod.
Right.
I mean, so I've been on Yellowstone Park and you get them deals.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
But it'll actually show up on a phone, like through an email, and then.
It'll be like when you get an Amber Alert, you see that bar that goes across?
Yep, that's all that's gonna be.
That's what they'll be, yep.
And you have to self-register on your phone.
Not for the iPods, you just have to have it turned on to allow those alerts.
Okay.
We can show you that afterwards.
Well, I suspect if you haven't turned them off, they're gonna be on.
They should be on, but some carriers are different, so your Verizon presets may be different than T-Mobile or maybe different than AT&T, so you just have to make sure your carrier has the correct, has your settings correct, so.
We're on.
Yep, and so each one is a little bit different, so that's the key.
I think we'll check that after,
That's why in the past, like if a weather warning went out and your neighbor said, well, I didn't get one on my phone, but you got one on your phone, more than likely, for some reason, their settings were turned off.
Right.
And again, this is a good work session because notifications can be overwhelming because there's so many options and so many ways you can get alerted. And,
And the other piece then is with that iPod, with it going to cell phones, it also has the ability to go to radio stations and TV. So the old beep, beep, beep that comes across the TV, if your TV station that's affiliated, which obviously we don't have TV stations or radio stations in Grant County, so it doesn't really affect us as much, but with Stevens County, they would have a radio station there. They can also choose or not choose to publish those as well. So when you get the beep, beep, beep across your radio saying, we got this message, that radio station has chosen to take those. That one is called the AES, right, Tina? Is that right?
EAS, Emergency Alert System.
EAS, sorry, EAS. So that is your beep, beep, beep going across your TV or coming across your radio. Those things they can now choose whether they, which most places, most of our local radio stations do send those out, but just they have that is part of that ability. So
But we're still gonna need to go to the Grant County site, a short while and sign up somebody.
And I would imagine that once the system is ready, there will be a lot of public outreach.
Yep.
Through Facebook and the paper and.
Yep.
And stuff to let the public know. We've already alerted the public that
Yep.
Code Red is no longer a working service. And then as soon as the new service is put in place, information will go to county staff and the public about how to sign up.
Right. Mhm.
I'll make a motion to approve the regroup.
Second. A motion and a second, any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Commissioner Troy Johnson.
Last meeting, we talked about approving the EMS, getting that approved. And at the budget committee, I asked why we couldn't just go ahead and approve what you see before you, the last sheet on the packet. Whether they're appropriations that have their own line or they're out of the commissioner's budget, those lines. So I would present that list and we would just, unless anybody objects or wants to change amounts or take somebody off of there, I would make a motion to set those appropriations at the level you see in front.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
I got a couple of questions. So we haven't done a reduction in the local levy there, including our commissioners' budgets. They're all the same numbers from last year. Troy?
These are the numbers that were in there, other than the Grant County Ag Association. These are the numbers that were approved in the preliminary levy.
Right.
These would have been based on whatever budget and information they would have given us.
Correct.
And
2024's numbers.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we did, I mean, in the preliminary, the Grant County Ag Association was at 50, just for transparency, we did lower that to the 25 that had been talked about. Otherwise, all the rest of those should reflect what was in the preliminary budget.
Okay, and the Chippewa River watershed, I mean, you guys aren't planning any one watershed, one plan revenue for that watershed, or, or is there any talk on any of that? Where SWCBs are looking for revenue there?
That's gonna go up.
Right.
Well, if it is, they're not, then they're notified of that.
But I say if you want that number to go up, we're way past
Well,
that.
I'm just asking, yeah, we're past that, but what I'm driving at, I'm just asking the question. As far as any momentum there, okay? That's my question I had, thank you.
We have a motion and a second, right?
Yes.
Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
You know, that the all the way letter and the whole thing.
Get this Excel Energy,
There's a question.
So Hoffman can order their ambulance?
I didn't say that. I said we set their amount. I didn't say that.
We gotta come out of committee then, so we have committee next Monday, or this coming Monday. Then you can ask that question.
I don't know nothing about that.
Gonna try.
You don't ask, the answer's no.
Well, follow up to that question. Is that, obviously the final budget's gonna be at our next meeting more than likely, right?
Well, we set these,
There's that.
so we don't have to go and reset these.
No.
I asked them the date we have to have the levy done is December 29th. That doesn't mean we shouldn't try to have it done on the 16th.
Right.
It just means that if something does come up, but if we have questions, we need to get those asked well before the 16th.
So I guess if we approve this, which we did, right? Then to the committee, Delayed and Bill. And the question, if we approved it. Should we answer the question, or should there be more comment from the committee, whether Hoffman can order their ambulance?
I think the committee, what I was taking is the committee still has work to do before
Yes.
this question can be answered.
Correct.
We're meeting.
Monday at 1.
On the
So,
15th, we
on the
have
15th,
an
yeah.
EMS
That's-
meeting
yeah.
on Monday.
So if at that point, leaving this meeting that can commence to happen.
Correct.
Okay,
They know how much money's coming in next year, so they
Yeah.
can make their plans for next year.
And we know now what we'll have for next year, so.
It wasn't conclusive, but now
that makes sense.
okay, Excel Energy. Bison to Alexandria's second circuit. 345 kV transmission line project. Information.
Everybody got the letter, yesterday. With the warrants, and, that is. The only information we've been given is that transmission line, After reading the letter, it looks like the transmission line, the amendment to it is some of the structures need to be rebuilt. They're gonna be in the same location, they're not moving location, but they need to rebuild them. And so that amendment has to go through their process, which looks to be a couple year process through 27. I believe, if my memory serves me right, so the letter came, showed what it runs the northeast part of the county. That line's already been approved, again, it's the amendment, because some of the existing structures will need to be changed. And so there will be dates and times where there'll be meetings for public comment and things like that. So as that information becomes available, we can share it on our website and Facebook, so people are aware. But because the letter came, we just want to make sure that the full board got the letter. It was discussed at a meeting, that everyone was aware that there are some amendments. In the next 2 years, there's a timeline of meetings and such to talk about those amendments.
I have some, here, go ahead. So, Tina, when I read it, I seen, the added wires are going on the same structures. And some of them have to be either redone or added to, is that what I would read? I suppose they need more support in certain areas. There's like 70 or 80 more towers or something like that added to that line. So,
Well, it goes, it basically follows the freeway, right?
yeah, it's the same line.
It'll stay in the same right of way, it's just.
Yeah, everything's the same. They're just gonna hang more wires.
Some of it's gonna bounce in and out of right away, so it's not gonna stay there, but the underbuild that they're gonna put into place needs more towers. Because they don't need near the structuring that they have for the 345 up top, so they're gonna try to cut some costs and cut corners and stuff like that, straighten that thing out. That's kind of what I've talked to with the Darren Gross and City Level Lake, the control superintendent.
And it's just more informational that there's gonna be meetings coming up, and when we're notified of those meetings, we'll make sure to get get that out there so people are aware.
We're ramping up for these AI systems. What's happening, these data centers?
And the city of Elba Lake. Or city of Bell, or whatever you wanna call it.
We wanted a letter of support, didn't
They do, we do, because we are the LGU, we have to support, we get the revenue from the state. And it's a pass through for the project, they're gonna apply for $1.5 million for the elevator road. And this is from 55-59. And it'll encompass, First Street Southwest and then Second Avenue Southwest. And create a cul-de-sac on the west elevator. And again, they need our support on the county level because we are the LGU supporting system mechanism out here for the draw from those funds. And it's LRIP funds from towns of 5,000 and under. So we'll make that motion, Mr. Chair. Being the letter was drafted to me. To be the letter of, to be, we will support the City of Elba Lakes improvement. Construction, reconstruction, whatever you wanna call it. Or First Street Southwest and Second Avenue Southwest.
I'll second it, Mr. Chair.
So, Bill, let me just get my map up here. Is it going to the Highway 59?
What's Blacktop? You know, it's just to where it starts on gravel. So it's actually that first street, or it could be First Avenue.
By Culligan, they're not redoing that section?
No, that's all black.
That is.
That was built, that's Tenton Road.
Okay, that part is.
Yep, so it's just a stub where it starts gravel on the west elevator to the west, and a cul-de-sac, and then Second Avenue's, southwest, reaching up to our county right of way on the county road. Number one.
Old QB Park thing,
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, QB Park is to the north of this.
yeah, north of the road.
We've done this already once before and we got denied and we ended up, pushing through and Matt got a little bit more, paperwork put together for LRAP funds of towns of 5,000 and under, and City of Hoffman received 1.4 million for the last round of funding, as you know, and that'll be in 27, right? So it's about the same process.
So you didn't just tell them, give them a go ahead or what?
I'd love to, but
How did we get here?
it's an eligibility thing.
So, back to that question I had. On this east end of this, going to the 59. That's kind of a free for all. Like, if you're leaving the elevator and you're gonna subsequently take a left or go north. You go to the south on the gravel and is that kind of that?
It's all co-op grade property, so they can kind of do what they want.
But that's
Out of the
not
right of way.
gonna change at all. This
No. The map shows just exactly the hard surface and the curb lines and the drainages and what they had planned.
Well, by addressing, I think. My opinion, Ken, is by addressing what is Second Avenue, whatever it is that runs north. So trucks can leave that way up to County Road 1. That alleviates some of your congestion, right? Cause right now they don't want you on that road, so everybody has to come and go from the same spot.
Okay, so
By going north up to County Road 1, you're alleviating the departing traffic, so it makes it a much better transition.
that would be the solution then.
Yes, and plus the corn trucks that were sitting on the west elevator. They're sitting in line there and a lot of times there's a congestion there, just like what Commissioner Johnson was saying there. So it gives them a chance to make a left and go north to our County Road 1. Yeah, in a round circle.
Okay.
Back on the.
The most we could possibly draw from is $1.5 million, and that's about what that project is gonna cost.
If it's a little wet, it gets to be a mess.
What's that?
If it's a little wet, it gets to be a mess.
Oh. And then it's icy and slippery and they need drainage issues. QB Park gets flooded and they put this in the application this round that anytime there's any kind of a high rain events and things like that, they get I mean, QB Park down there has got 3, 4, or 5 feet of water standing in it. So the drainage is gonna get taken care of through this project as well.
We don't have a swimming pool, do you?
Well, they have one for periodically it surfaces down there.
Okay, we got a motion in a second. Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Here,
They want that by December 8th, right?
Yes, to put the application in.
Yeah.
We've already done this once.
The letter.
And letters of support from a lot of different, other than us and Club Green, got something plugged in there so they could utilize that.
Well, you should have been getting, so Douglas County has a significant amount of grain that moves through that elevator. Otter Tail County has a significant amount of grain that moves through that elevator. I know it'd be pretty hard to have a response by the 8th, but I mean, those are,
There's,
that's how we got the money in Hoffman, is we went to ProAg and had them go to Otter Tail, Douglas County, all these other counties that have, I mean, the farmers that run through here are coming from Evansville, they're coming from Otter Tail. Get those other counties involved, 'cause the more you can get, the better.
So, Mr. Chair, will you anticipate, or Bill, you anticipate that they'll rename them that road that goes north to Bill Boulevard?
What's in there?
What's in there?
the signage you're talking when they're all said and done? Okay, yeah. We've already got that covered. 54 is the Bill Valley Memorial Highway, but I gotta die first, okay?
okay, Budget and Finance Committee. Hold there long enough.
Good move, Jared.
We're going building and finance, so we'll go to building committee,
Building is fine, what?
or budget and finance, I can't read, I guess, sorry.
Well, we met, and what you had today was what we met about.
Yeah.
Okay,
On that though, how do we want, I mean, do we want pretty much the same thing for the rest of them, or what is the plan? For 2 weeks from today, when we wanna set the budgets?
Do you wanna have another meeting after you get back from AMC, or what are you thinking?
Well, I'm not saying that, I'm saying, are there questions, are there things, I mean. Don't wait to ask, if you look through the budgets and there's a question, don't wait till the 16th to ask them, no one.
Well, the preliminary was 0.9 something, or less than 3, right?
Well, no, it was closer to 4.
Or 3, yeah.
Cause if there was the number used for last year's levy was remember we took like 1% off. The number that was used originally figuring the increase was the number before we took that percent off, so it changed what the increase was.
3.97.
That's the number I was gonna spit back here.
Okay, so originally it was at 2.4, but now it's a % more.
So, some of the things that we wanted to make sure everyone on the board understood is that when we get into next year now, the LEC building payment, we still will have $150,000 at US Bank that they will pay. So that $667,000 we levied, or we're levying for payment, will not go to US Bank, because they already have that money. But one of the things is we're having an additional payroll next year, because January's first payroll of 2027 winds up on the 1st, which is a Friday, so we're gonna pay it on the 31st, so the recommendation is to not take that out, because you just turn around and put it back in anyway, but that'll cover that shortfall. The 25,000 we took off of the fair goes to covering that, because that's about a $200,000 in shortfall, so those things would go to cover those, so the last meeting, there was not a recommendation to cut from the prelim. We may have to move. Like from the LEC payment to some of the numbers may have to move, but the levy doesn't get cut.
So from the finance and budget committee, looking at any individual departments, there wasn't any glaring reductions that you identified that needed to be addressed to the board?
No, it was some of those bigger things that we know we would be removing from like the fair.
Yeah.
But we know we have a need elsewhere, so that the budget itself, and I mean, so one of the things we talked about was putting the salaries and payroll expenses and stuff back into the individual department's budget. And what we did was we're gonna wait and see if we can get negotiations wrapped up before then. If not, we wanted to wait, and then we would put those back in. So we would amend the budget in January, February, March, whenever those things were resolved. So it's, the budget itself, we will approve one in 2 weeks or when we do it. But we may need to come back and amend it just because we kept because of the negotiations and the wage study and all the things, we kept the budget separate, or the payroll separate from department vote.
Yeah.
We will eventually want to put those back in.
Right.
So this 1%, help me out, because originally it was the 2.9 something.
So in the
Form
end
that
of,
we got in the mail for our taxes, is that 3.9 or the 2.9?
so percentages are just for your PR, that is based on nothing in the real world. So we set dollar figures.
Yep.
We don't set percentages. The percentages for you to go to AMC and brag that we're only 4%, when somebody else is 9%.
Yeah.
Well, the reality of it is we deal with dollar figures, so. How we got a miss in our percentage is, remember at the end of 24. What was presented to us was we needed to certify a levy of, let's just call it $8 million because it's easy. But we said, we're gonna take 1% of that off because we always overestimate. So we actually set the levy at $7,920,000. So when we figured this year's increase, that was based off of the 8 million, not the 7,920,000. So that's why there's a discrepancy in the percentage. From what we thought back in September to now, we know that that number was a little different.
So the notice we got in the mail, I understand the percentage, but at some point it does get the dollars. Does the notice we got in the mail reflect the dollars, which translates to the 3.97?
So the notice you got in the mail would have said 24, 25, let's say 25, and then the projected 26, right? So those would have been based off of actual numbers.
But well,
I'm gonna verify this later, but those are gonna be actual numbers.
but backing into it, is it the 2.97 or the 3.97?
It would be the 3.97.
Okay, so it is accurate what we got in the mail.
And yeah, that's what, I got it, it's laying on my table, that's what it said.
It's proposed. It isn't, it isn't projected.
Not actual,
Proposed.
it's proposed.
Right.
No, but what I'm saying is, because we left here in the preliminary, and we had 2.97 in my head. Am I right, Dwight?
It was under 3.
I think it was. But that, and I don't have a problem with the change, I just was wondering if all that.
That's how it happened, is we went and essentially shorted our budgets to $80,000. And when this year we were figuring out that percentage, we went off of that bigger number, not the true number of what we set the levy at. So that's where the discrepancy comes.
That's what the percentage.
Yep.
Okay, I mean, now you can see it that way. I understand.
The information that was provided in the truth and taxation statements is accurate.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah.
So is there, I mean, that, if we need to have another budget finance committee, great, we will, that's not a problem. But if anybody has questions, get them to Tina and we will get her, Chad, or don't sit on a question you think of tomorrow until the 16th.
Be done with that?
Hope so, that would be neat.
Okay, building committee.
We haven't met since the last time.
No, we met just
You did.
Monday,
That was you did.
not yesterday, the week before. We're going over security, safety policy, part of that courthouse security grant. We're just trying to get some of that stuff wrapped up. Oh, we are still looking at some flooring options, so that's. There's something else here that got covered up. Oh, equipment stuff Maya's working on.
EMS committee,
We're meeting, what day, Tina?
December 15th.
15th.
at 1 o'clock.
Yeah. We'll have more information there, thanks, commissioner meeting.
Personnel committee,
Negotiations are ongoing. We meet again this afternoon, tomorrow.
You are.
I don't know if I am, you are. Anything else I mean, you have. Yeah, you had the assessor's office here.
okay, highway committee, we meet this afternoon at 1 o'clock. We'll give you a follow-up from that meeting. Public safety,
Contracts are out, haven't heard. There was one question that got answered through email, haven't heard anything else.
solid waste,
We have a report from Reed today and we got that document approved, so. And we believe that.
I wasn't at the last time we had negotiations.
strategic planning,
We haven't met since last meeting. I don't think there's anything to report.
We did post, we posted the 3 open seats for public. We've had a few inquiries, but no applications received yet.
Horizon Public Health,
Mr. Chair, we got a finance committee meeting tomorrow at 8 o'clock, and then for the final budget, and then present that to the board at the meeting on the 15th.
okay, Western Prairie,
So one thing we should, and I forgot to mention it to I talked to him yesterday, but when we have our next building security meeting, Western Prairie wants to be invited. Cause when we start talking about lockdown buttons and some of that stuff, they would like to be. I don't know if we need to, I mean, Horizon's here as well. Do we need to include?
I can mention that tomorrow.
I mean, that.
I think it's gonna reflect on anybody
Yeah, I mean,
in our buildings.
Well, so one of the things of discussion was with Western Prairie and been included in it is when we get to like, especially the lockdown button,
Yeah,
is you're not gonna be able to get in. So we need to make sure everyone knows that. I mean,
yeah. Everybody's gotta be privy to the information. And at the same meeting, I agree.
I'll talk to her about it. That meeting morning, and then, we just let them know by email, let her know, and I guarantee you they'll be there. So, yeah.
Anybody got anything else? You? Good. We'll adjourn the meeting at 10:33.
We got one